Peace.
Peace.
This is Joshua Miller Law, Mr. PhD. You're just now entering the cipher called Real to Real 360. K-Wise.
Peace, God.
Bring that beat in, kid.
Indeed.
Peace.
Yeah. What's going on, party people? Welcome to the Real to Real 360 show. Let's get it in.
We do the knowledge and wisdom so you can understand. Real to Real 360 shows in full command. We changing the game for how it all was taught. From bondage to freedom to an independent thought. Yo, the show is here to bring about a change for real. To lighten everyone so we all know the deal. 360 degrees is a fact. We created the show to give our love back to our communities so we can know what's going on and give them the support from knowledge to born. So if you're ready to learn, then it's time to go. Sit back and relax and enjoy your show. Peace.
Peace, peace, and blessings. Peace to all the guards and nurses of the lost 5% nation. And peace to all the human families on the planet Earth. I be the Lord God, K-Wise, Allah, a.k.a. Kato, the Black Superhero. Welcome you to another exciting, explosive episode of the Real to Real 360 show. And let's get it in. Let's get it on because we got a lot to discuss. So I'm going to bring on my co-host, none other than my brother in God, my man. 50,000 grand still trying to get that 5 cents from him. You know what I mean? Love him to death. Ladies and gentlemen, my brother, Joshua Mel Allah, a.k.a. Mr. PhD himself. Peace, Lord.
Man, peace.
What's good, God? What's good?
Everything is everything, man. Today should be a very impactful show. Those who are listening, make sure you tune your ears in. You know what I'm saying? Get everything together because today we'll be discussing Stop the Violence. We'll be discussing the reentry program. And these are some of the things that plague the Black and brown community, that having enough resources for individuals who are coming home from being incarcerated and needing resources. So today we are bringing back on Miss LaShawn Lukes, who wears many hats. She's involved in many different programs, many different she's a resource herself. So we just want to bring her on and speak about some of the events that she has that's coming up and the ones that she just done. So bring on Miss LaShawn Lukes.
All right, let's get it in.
Hi, guys. I appreciate it.
Peace. Welcome back. Glad to have you aboard.
Back.
Thank
Welcome back. See, my thing is she's always running. You know what I mean? Like she got like 100 things going on. She does a whole bunch of stuff for us, housing, construction, reentry, Stop the Violence, and she has a movie that she's making, all at the same time, and still trying to help out and give back to the community, which is, to me, I take my hat off and I salute her because I'm trying to figure out where she get all this energy from. So welcome, La, welcome.
Thank you for having me once again. It's funny you say that because I'm like, I ask myself, and I know it's just the purpose and the God in me that keeps me going because I don't even know how I do it. But it's for the people, and I'm dedicated to this. So I'll always have the energy and I always show up. Mm-hmm. So that's one of the things for our people. It's just so much going on, and we're in a state of emergency. You know, the world is in a state of emergency. But our people, we are in a place where we have to really wake up because it's so many different things happening. And what I tell people is you got to sit at the right tables. And when I hear some of the things that's getting ready to happen, it scares me. I'm scared for others. I'm scared for those who are not prepared. Mm-hmm. I'm scared for those who are uneducated. Mm-hmm. And I'm scared of those who will have a lack of resources. You know, gentrification, they're getting ready to take that to another level in the city. Mm-hmm. And I can't get into the logistics because I'm sitting at certain tables. But what I do want to say is that, and I talked about this before with my non-for-profit, I always talk about, building our credit, having equity, ownership. I'm going to push ownership down people's throat because trust me, if you don't have any ownership in your community, whether it's the business, don't just rent a location. Try to purchase the building. because it's going to be a big difference, and you're going to feel it when your lease is not going to get renewed. Gentrification is just the forefront of what's really going to happen. And when we have no equity in our community, we have no skin in the game. It does not matter, you know. Being a patron and saying a lot, and I'm for the Black-owned business. Trust me, 110%. But when we are asking people to pour into our Black businesses, do the right thing with the money and learn about the investment side of it. And that's what I'm going to talk about today. But I'm not going to get into that so much. But it's a connection between poverty and mass incarceration. It's a connection between poverty and certain activities that happen in lower income or compromised and underserved communities.
Right.
The difference now, what is going on, is we see these mass shootings, right? But little do you know, these have always been going on. But if it's not on the news, we tend to not know what's going on in the world. We cannot rely solely on the news to dictate how we're going to react and what we're going to prepare for. Let's just act like in our minds it's the end of days, okay? Last year, if you think back, we were talking about the cop killing our youth, right? This year, we were talking about a little bit about Black on Black crime, which has always been an issue in our community, right? But then we have other things that's going on at the same time. So it's like we got to pay attention and stay on track. Yesterday, I just partnered with and we had a phenomenal event for gun violence awareness in Von Kings Park and Brooklyn. And it's so crazy because my allergies, like I was under a tree. It was just like I just got to say, because my sinuses are crazy. But it was so crazy. But people came out and they understood what was going on. We had a lot of families that were impacted by gun violence because we have to hear from them too. Understand when an action happens in our community, we lose on both sides. We lose the victim, and then we also lose another being that's going to be incarcerated, or if they got away with it, they're living with that trauma, right? So we got PTSD on both sides, from the shooter and the one who's being shot. The family's impacted, the friends are impacted. You hear fireworks, you looking like you don't know the duck. Our children mentally are being impacted. And what I urge to the parents is educate our children. And I said this to a woman yesterday. Me with my sons, I was all in my son's stuff growing up. Their sneaker boxes, their rooms, everything about them, right? Because it's about accountability. And that's one of my main things when I talk about the gun violence awareness. We all have to take a part in this, right? So we see a young man in our community that we see is going down the wrong track or something's happening. It's our responsibility to say something. Say something to the parents. Listen, I seen your son over there doing such and such and such, because I do that. You know, I did that in my community. You have to say something, because a lot of the things that's going on in our community, we're there. And something that we're talking about in Harlem, because I do a lot of work in Harlem, is like, yes, we gotta depends on the police, but they're more response half the time. We have to police our own communities, and that's what our own blocks. Let's start with our block. You start with your neighbors, understand what's going on with those children, and see where the deficit comes. Because what happens is we may educate our children, but your neighbor could be a whole nother story going on. So now sometimes you got to take this young person aside and say, hey, this is going on, especially our young Black men. And believe me, they're very responsive to the information, because people are like, oh, these kids, you can't say nothing. It's how you present it. I learned that even in my reentry program. So we're going to talk about the connection with the gun violence, the reentry program, the mindset, and then what happens in our community and the reality of what's happening in our community, because guns don't just kill people. It's the mentality and the mindset of the person who picks up the gun. So now they try to get us caught up in the gun laws, but let's take accountability to educate. Or you see mental health, they want to say, oh, the person is mentally, has mental health issues. These people are taught hate. There's a difference between a mental illness, okay, or mental deficiency, and just being a hateful person. For years, we seen the Ku Klux Klan, right? They hung out people, they whipped out people, raped out women. Not one time was it said to be a mental health crisis, right? You would think some of the things that they did was horrific, but no, that was hate. So we have to first understand with the gun violence, what's going on. A lot of this is hate, whether it's they hating gays, whether they hating blacks, Spanish, whoever, or hating themselves. You know, we have to get into why is this happening? It's the mental state. Right now, it's more conversations about what's going on in the music, right? But didn't we in our Black community talk about this a long time ago? But nobody wanted to hear us, right? But now, when it's affecting others, it's now coming back into the conversation and the dialogue. We talked about that, about what we see on the television, the type of movies that they're putting out there, the video games, the Call of Duties, all these other kill, right? Kill and destroy. That's being programmed into these young kids' minds where, you know what, it's okay to take a life. I'm going to live forever. It's not going to happen to me. Or guess what? I'm just angry. We see it's so many different levels and dynamics to what's going on with gun violence. So can we actually stop it as a whole is always the question. But we do have to take accountability for ourselves. And I say accountability all the time. A lot of the shooters who did the mass shooters, if they now they go back, because I always research someone's backstory, right? Not just what happened at that moment, but what happened last year in that person's life. Let's look at their social media, right? Let's look at what type of person. And guess what? All the signs are normally there, right? What about the people that's around them? That's seeing this person is angry. We know as parents, when something is bothering our kid, we could kind of tell something is going on. It's our responsibility to say, hey, what is going on with you? You need to talk, pay attention. I go through, well, when my children, I have my children are adults now. I used to go through their social media pages. I would go through their phones because I paid for it. I would just be in their business, because being in their business can save them and also save others' lives. That's right. And that's what I urge to parents. That's my conversation to parents. Don't be like, oh, you know, Tommy is just a little upset, or Steven is just killing a rabbit in the backyard. You know, he's just doing some Boy Scout stuff. No, it's a certain mindset that's doing that. And maybe he's angry. And then you have the influence of what's going on in the news, you know, with Donald Trump. He stirred up a lot of hatred and made it okay to hate, right? Made it okay to react to your emotions. Listen, I always tell people all the time, me, myself, I have mental funerals in my mind every day. Somebody is RIP, right? But I close them out my life. I don't go kill them. But now, if society made it where you can just act on every emotion, it's okay. Just act out any type of way, and there's no, once again, accountability. So what I find, what happens is, and working in, and I learned a lot too with my reentry program. So I'm just going to talk about that, because I learned about the mindset, and you hear me talk about more and more and more. I'm learning more and more, because you can have all the degrees in the world, but when you start interacting with live individuals and hearing their stories and their mindsets, that's the best case study in the world. So now I have a program called the Reentry Experience. And what I do is organizations send men to me, and I sit down with them and I do their job readiness skills, right? Because the thing is, you have someone who was incarcerated, when they come home with that Metro card, going into the shelter, and they don't have a plan, guess what's going to happen? That's a recipe for disaster, and they know that. That's why that incarceration circle just goes like this, because obviously we know they came from a place of chaos or whatever was going on in their world. When they come home to the same environment, the same family, the same toxic relationship, normally they don't just change when they're coming back to the same situation. It takes people to talk to them to say, hey, this is what you can do. Now, sometimes I'm talking to a 50, 60-year-old man or a 22, 23-year-old. But even at 50 years old, what is your life plan? What is it? I always ask two questions. What do you like to do and what do you want to do? And they'll tell me from there. The great thing about my program is that me, myself, everyone who comes through the program, they have to sit with me. So I start to see how their mindset is, how they show up. I said, come to me as if you're going to an interview. And let me tell you, they don't be having their hair combed. Their hygiene is like, oh my God. Okay. They don't have suits, some of them. They don't have this, they don't have that. So I assess and look, right? Now I'm talking to them, I'm taking my notes. I do this in a groups of 4, but then I come back and I talk to them one-on-one. And I say, hey, you need to come. We're going to do some mock interviews. Or they don't know what to do. And a lot of these agencies, and I'm not faulting them, that's getting these big checks. Keep in mind, I'm not getting that, okay? They just bring them in as in numbers, okay? But it's no way that you can send a man to a job interview with a resume that said he hasn't worked in 8 years and think that the employer is going to hire them. So what I do is I assess, I look at their resumes, I send them back to these government programs, okay, and say, fix this resume. I tell them how to fix the resume. Understand, when I'm one person, okay? This is a $1 billion business dealing with the incarcerated community, okay? And they're failing. They're failing out. They're failing. Most of the men that I get are in the Black and brown. They're Black or Latino, and the system is crazy. So I came up with something to really help them. They need to make money now. So what I do is I look for jobs for them that fit their profile, okay, their skill set. I have men that are in federal prison, which I love my federal guys, because you know why? Even though they were in federal prison, remember that's more white collar crime and more strategic crimes. They come out and they just sharper than when they went in sometimes, but they just need certain tools now because they understood, guess what? I'm not going to do this money laundering, or I'm not going to do this. But now it's like, okay, all right, you took all that money. So in my mind, you work good with certain finances, right? Though you can't get your finance license, this is what you can do. And that's how my conversation started. They respect it. They're responsive to me. They have my real cell phone, my business cell phone. I always answer it anyway. And that's how it starts, organically. So I'm able to place men in jobs, help them with housing, direct resources. They like to come to me because they are a person. They're not number such and such and such and such. They was a number when they was incarcerated. When they come home, I treat them like a man. And this is what you have to do. And I love it. I also see, and why I'm speaking on this is because what I urge my brothers, take some accountability and take time to mentor our young men, because they need it. If you have some common sense and you found a strategy of success in your life, teach that to someone else who may need it, even organically in a conversation. Because what I find now when I work with my men between 19 and 25 years of age, they just totally lost. They was like, yeah, I was in the A. So I'm like, I know what the A is, right? But is this how you're going to speak on an interview? They talk like they text, and they text like they talk. They use slang. They back in the chair. They doing this. Half head is twisted. Half is afro. These are the things. But trust me, how many Black men did they pass in the street? You know, you see them with some dress clothes on because they come in dressed up, but nobody is taking the time to say, hey, this is how you have to present yourself. You understand? It's a lot of breakdown of different things that's going on. But in the reentry experience, we talk about these things. And I talk to them one-on-one. You know, I'm like their moms. When somebody say, oh, you better than my mom, I'm like, you know, I've been a couple moms. I probably got 30 more kids out there than what I have. But if that's how they feel and that's how I have to get through. But you know what it's about? They need love. They need love. They need understanding. And they need those who have the knowledge to get to the next level and step. They need them as well. We have to save our children and save our young men and protect our men as well. And I say this to the sisters all the time, because sometimes, you know, when a man come home, it's just different logistics that I hear go on. They come out, they get paroled to the female house, then she put them out, and it becomes chaotic, right? So now the first thing, what could alleviate that? Help him get a job. And even if you're in a room, guess what? You was just in a cell, so you can manage in a room, right? But at least you have peace of mind. Peace of mind is everything. So these are all the different scenarios with the reentry experience, why I call it an experience, that I deal with. It's so many different things that's going on, but it's certain denominators: money, in housing. Okay, money in housing. We have to, and I say this to these agencies, and I'm getting ready to put a big thing together because I have to talk to them. You can't just keep giving them a Metro card, or some organizations, you know what they do to get them to come to programming? They give them a $25 supermarket card to buy groceries, you know, just to come in to get their numbers. You understand? And then when you get there, they're failing them. This is what's going on. So even I urge other agencies like myself, the smaller nonprofits, if you feel in your heart that you can work with people and you love people, because I'm in a business of people, get a nonprofit. You know why? Because we are on a more grassroots ground level. We could do more breakthroughs than these big agencies. And they need that. I need 10 more other agencies like myself, and I partner with other agencies as well. So we can help our brothers. Most of the people who come through my reentry program are men. I do accept women as well. But like I said, we have to stimulate and motivate our Black brothers. They need direct resources. They don't need to be ran around. Okay. Also, what they don't need to do is when they going through that program, they put them eventually in a shelter type situation, that group home thing. Then they get different vouchers from the state sometimes. They move a little faster with that in the city, but now the market rate versus the voucher is never going to match, right? So what happens is we're going to put them now in a certain type of community where the rent is lower. So do you see what's happening already? So you're taking this person, let's take a shooter. He was a shooter. He was a hothead. He said, you know what? I want to come home. You know, Miss Lukes, I want to do the right thing. But now you're going to place him in the Wild Wild West. Do you see what's happening? We have to like come together and have these type of conversations and panels to create strategic, realistic plans for our brothers and sisters that are formerly incarcerated. My main goal is to get them jobs and to get them housing. But most of all, I get them jobs because the money is what's going to motivate somebody to do the right thing. The younger guys, they out there, they doing scamming, swiping, they doing different type of crimes. So now also you have somebody who was on the streets prior to being incarcerated that was making X amount of money. Okay. Now they had to come home, and now I'm saying you can't do that no more. Okay, Miss Lukes, was doing this. I made this a day. You understand what I'm saying? What is my conversation to that person? I got to get them in school immediately. Now, if you was able to do that, I'm gonna find something that challenges their mind. I can't put that guy at McDonald's and think he's gonna want to go to work. So it's about matching up the jobs, finding safe locations for them to live that's not with a high crime rate. And all of this is what we all need to be taken to Washington to fight for our brothers and sisters who are formerly incarcerated to stop the cycle. They have to come home with resources that make sense. And that's where I'm at with it. The point of getting their etiquette together, their presentation together, their hygiene together, and them getting a job. And then from there, we go from there. That's how it all starts. That one-on-one. And I do that and I work with them personally.
That's a real piece because we have to stop the recidivism. First and foremost, like you said, education and money, job awareness and job ready is a key. And being the fact that I work in a facility and I work with individuals who are currently incarcerated, going into Federal Bureau of Prisons and things of that nature, and even those who are going home, the key thing is having an exit plan, what we discuss as an exit plan. What is the things that you're setting in motion to get yourself ready to step back out into society? What resources are you tapping into prior to? Because there's resources that can be tapped into prior to your release date. And we have to be proactive. And that's the issue that we have in our community, that we're not proactive when it comes down to things. We're more reactive than anything else. We wait until we get to the situation to want to deal with it instead of having an actual plan. So the things that you're doing, I take my hat off and I salute you with that, because first and foremost, we have more individuals being incarcerated, you know what I'm saying, and coming home and being celebrated than we do individuals who are actually graduating college and high school. And this is something in the community that we have to address as a people. You know what I'm saying? I have a brother that's currently upstate New York doing, you know what I'm saying, a whole bunch of time. But I also too know that being the fact that he has to change his mindset. That's just like anybody else who, if you grow up in the ghetto and you get a chance to move to a suburban area, is your mindset the same, is in the same place where you just left, or is your mindset is in growth? So we have to teach certain things. You spoke about hate and things of that nature. These are all taught behaviors. You know what I'm saying? These are all taught behaviors. So being the fact that these are all taught behaviors, we have to re-educate our people for the most part about life, society, and what is needed to be successful in these days and times. We all can sit up there and talk about the money that we used to make. You know what I'm saying? But you can't.
And 9 times out of 10, let me just say on that, they wasn't even making no real money.
For real, for real. And
okay,
we sit up there and we think about that, and we talk about, we can't spend that money in 2022. The money made in 1986, 87, 88, whatever the case may be, you can't spend that money in 2022. Hell, you couldn't hardly spend that money in 86 because you couldn't have anything in your name. So what do you define success as? You know what I'm saying? Is it being a ghetto superstar? Is it being an individual who is going to leave a legacy for these young children that's coming up behind you? What is your thoughts of success? And see, we don't have those type of discussions. And even when it comes down to like men, we talk about men reaching out, speaking to individuals, the young individuals nowadays. When we're lost, we can't educate someone on going further if we don't know who we are and where we're going ourselves, because it's a lot of things that's going on. Like you spoke about being uneducated. You know what I'm saying? Being uneducated. And we had a conversation of the differentials of being in the boroughs and being on LI and the mindset of individuals. When you've been fighting mentally your whole life, like you said, he's a shooter. You're gonna put him in a situation where he's in low-income housing, he's back in Iraq, he's in the war zone. He's going to take care of his mental needs, and his mental needs is going to be what he's going to revert right back to. If individuals put him in a situation, he's going back to that. So we have to make sure that we put them in, or get them in a situation where they can recognize their own success rate and their own priorities, their own lifestyle. You can't always depend on coming home to a female, because they got it now, whereas majority of the females, especially in the boroughs, are living in the projects. So you can't go back to the project. That's a red zone for most individuals. You know what I'm saying? So the probation,
they do allow them to go, and they can be paroled to the projects.
You know what I'm saying? But that's a red zone for them. So if that's a red zone for them, do you think for one instant that you're not going to have recidivism? When you put a person back in the same situation that he just left, that's just like a individual that's a drug addict, and you put him back in a drug-infested facility, home or area, and they just come back from rehab, they're going to struggle. They're going to struggle. The same thing they tell you in the 12-step program. You know what I'm saying? You have to change the people, places, and things.
But see, can I say something? Realistically, that's true. But a lot of times that can't just happen. And that's the thing. They're going to come home to this environment because they don't have the resources.
They didn't have an exit plan. They didn't have an exit plan.
A lot of times these guys really don't have anyone. The ones I'm going to be honest with you, they don't have anyone with common sense. You can have people there, but if they may not be able to help you. And that's why I say that's what I urge men. They come to me right now because, I do women's empowerment for years.
Right.
I realized I couldn't help the woman and don't help the man. But then I'm a mother of sons and daughters. So I understand what it is. And it also starts with simple things as saying, listen, brother, you're a king. You're intelligent. I'm an advocate of positive affirmations. Okay,
Right.
someone didn't even know what an affirmation was. A lot of them. No one ever said, you know what, you're handsome, but guess what? You gotta pull your pants up, or you gotta. This is how you have to conduct yourself. And they are open. They are open to that information. It's how you present it. Now,
Right.
if we have all of us, right? Even let's
Uh-huh.
take us here on the channel, and we say, you know what, we're gonna see this kid out here. When we see a kid in need, we're gonna say something, or it could be an adult.
Mhm.
Depending on how you say it, they're gonna take the help. They're gonna want the help. Because
Right.
9 times out of 10, they know it's wrong, but they don't know what to do. So that's where it comes in with the reentry experience. Why I call it an experience, because it's so many different things that in services that we are giving them. But the one main focus is love, respect, and understanding. And when we start and base our world on those principles,
Mhm.
that's when your world changes. You may have to come back home to the projects, right? But you don't have to be a part. You know you can't hang in the playground. You know you ain't gonna be in front of the building. You have to learn to make those wiser choices. And I
Now, other
always
question.
talk
Hold on.
about that.
Now, the thing is, with the reentry program, is there a counseling part that goes with that as well? Because, like we said, we have to change the mentality, right?
So this is what happens, because remember, I told you they refer to me from government agencies, because what I'm positioning myself is because obviously it's not effective if they're coming to me with this situation, right?
Right.
So now the counseling side, it starts with a conversation. When we have these type of, let's sit in a circle and talk.
Uh-huh.
I don't believe in that. What I do is we have regular dialogue like we're talking right now. And we talk about this is what's going on. I had some guys last week from Hempstead. So one side of Hempstead don't
Excuse me,
belong
Lala.
on the other side.
We have a call on the line that has a question for you.
Okay.
We have a caller. Somebody called in and they have a question for you. And they've been holding for a minute. So, Kay, go ahead and
caller,
ask the
you
question
on the
from
Real
caller.
Real 360. What's your question for the panel, or specifically for Miss LaShawn Lukes?
This question is for Mr. Luke. I was just wanting to know. Okay, I'm loving what you're saying and the whole line with the stop the violence and the guns situation there. How can you go about getting more information, directly in contact with you to give some more support with what you're doing, or
they just put my website there, but what I'm gonna do is, because that's the thing, we all have to get involved, and this is what I'm urging. We got to get at these tables and let us have these conversations. And I appreciate that, sis, for you even saying that, because this impacts every city, every community is being impacted. And we have compromised area in every state, in every city. It's even if it's a block, all right, or it's a building, we have it. It's always there. But what happens is that we have to get involved in this and be active. We got to do more than talking. We have to actually show up, and like the sister said, how can I help you? I just put up my information there. Let's see how wherever you're located, because also with the non-for-profit, we can move from state to state. We're not stationed in one location. So if it's an area that has direct need and they need some resources from us, we can make arrangements to travel to that community as well, because it's kind of universal what's going on, believe it or not. I speak to people in Detroit. Some places are worse than New York, because I spoke to a couple people in Detroit. I have an uncle in Detroit. We was just talking about some things, and it's bad there too. It's impacting us as a whole. And the thing with gentrification, it's happening in a lot of different locations. It's not just in New York. People talk about it in New York, but it's happening in other locations as well. And then what comes along with gentrification, you see the other trauma, the rent going higher and higher and higher, right? And so our money is dropping, but everything else is going up in inflation, because they're trying to weed us out. We want that gun violence out of our community. We don't want these black kids around us. We don't want these brown kids around us. Keep them over there with that. And do you see what's going on? But at the same time, that's okay to me. but we should be building up our communities and taking some accountability for ourselves. Sometimes people fight segregation, but was segregation really good or bad? When you think about it, it comes into these other conversations where, guess what? We have to be accountable once again for our block. Let's start with our block. Let's police our block. Let's look at the kids that's on this block. Let's pay attention a little bit more, right? And then we'll see what's going to happen, and we can stop. And that's my whole thing with that, because gun violence is just not going to stop. Okay, guns have been in this country since the beginning. This country was built on hate. It was built on death. It was built on corruption. Mm-hmm. So realistically, it's not going to just stop. And you see with the laws that's being passed, what they're vetoing. You see what's going on. And at the end of the day, you know who really runs the house. Mm-hmm. And also, money talks.
That's right.
Mm-hmm. Like you were saying. I'm sorry.
Go ahead, caller.
Also, I wanted to add too, along with what you're doing, I'm too trying to get involved with the Stop the Violence movement as well. I'm actually a promoter, and I'm putting on shows right now, and I have a tour that's going on that is about stopping the violence. I'm trying to bring entertainment, bring community together. I'm also getting ready to be involved with the festival here in my hometown in Fayetteville, North Carolina, sometime in September, where I and another group of people are collaborating together doing this festival at the Festival Park with the Stop the Violence movement as well. So this is what brings a little interest to me, what you're speaking on. So I know you're more focused on with the incarceration of...
Well, no, that's not true. The gun violence too is because, like I said, we just had an event. Gun violence, I have a dear friend who lost her son to gun violence in Brooklyn. What happens is gun violence is a part of the problem that we're having and that we've always had in our community, despite what you see on TV. We are losing we have stray bullets going. We are losing our sons, our daughters, our elderly is being impacted by gun violence. That's just another one of the services. But what I do with my non-for-profit is say, this is my slogan: put down the guns and do what? Okay, telling everybody put the guns down, but what do you expect them to do? What our nonprofit does, we provide resources and services and support for those who are, how can I say, impacted by gun violence, those who could be potentially, right? Because we got to be proactive, impacted by gun violence, whether it's the victim or the shooter. I look at the victim and the shooter the same way, because we're losing two lives there.
I think one of the things is very important, like you talked about. We go back to the ways of old when we started the Neighborhood Watch program. But even before the Neighborhood Watch program, we had our family watching each other's family backs automatically. You understand what I'm saying? When one person was out there, they get in trouble. If your parents wasn't home, the parents of the next building would tell you better get your behind in that house and stop playing. So policing each other up with the love we used to have, it's changed so much, but we have to be able to step up and change the narrative back to that type of situation. So one of the main things we want to emphasize is, yes, if you got a block that talk to your neighbors, start a petition, say you want to open up a new neighborhood watch. So we want to get all parties involved, family, friends, whatever, so we can set this block and let people know this is a neighborhood watch program right here, where we're going to make sure we take back the power of ourselves, of police and governing ourselves.
And that's the thing, like I was saying, and that's what it is. You know what I'm saying? I appreciate that. You get it. You get what I'm saying? But what happens is that you think about, even take the Black Panthers, right? That was what their mindset was doing, taking accountability. But when we come together organized, and that's another part of it too, right? So we don't want this to go to the left. Mm-hmm. It has to be some leadership. It has to be whatever we do. The base has to be love, and I'm starting to realize that more and more and more. When you come that route of love and understanding, hear what the needs of the community. Maybe they don't have a park to play. Maybe they don't have certain resources. Contact us. We will create something for that area. Don't be scared to not ask for help, because a lot of times we go out there, okay, we can police the community, but guess what? Let's go back to double dutch tournaments. Let's go back to keeping these kids occupied. We have a lot of people that I see they do these tournaments. I'm not a fan of the tournaments. I'm saying we need this all year long, right? We don't just need a tournament for one time. They get these kids out here and see who's good in basketball, who wants to trade. If it's a tradesman on that block, hey, guess what? We're going to talk about this. Just have conversation, but activate the conversation after. Take that next step. So my information is there, sis. You can reach out to me and I can definitely get involved.
Now, do you think that is strategically done when they close down the Boys and Girls Clubs in these communities, in these areas? Because when you don't have places for the children to go to, as they say, idle mind is a devil's workshop. So you don't have activities and resources for these babies to go to, these young men and women to go to. Do you think it's strategically done to basically employ the prison to pipeline?
So what happens once again, because these are big organizations, right? That are having these Boys and Girls Club or their government ran. So it becomes an issue of politics a lot of times. Now, who's running this? You get a corrupt person in there running it. Like they have one down in Harlem across from the Polo Grounds. It's chaos and mayhem because the people at the top are trying to monopolize the money or do things a certain way, and they take the community out of the community center.
Right.
So that's where it becomes a problem. But once again, it goes back to what I said. Guess what? I'm trying to think, what did we have when we were growing up? It wasn't that many centers. We had a little center, but guess what? We went to the park. So what about the people, the elders that's there, and we are considered elders now, right? We going to the park. I used to do it with my sons. All the kids would come to my house. I would go buy a case of hot dogs, a case of hamburgers, throw it on the grill, right? And now all these kids, it'd be like 20 kids in my yard. And I remember I put the TV in the garage and they was playing the PlayStation, but we know where those 20 kids are, right? We know that they ate. I'm like, yo, pull up your pants. You can't come in my yard with your pants sagging. I don't like profanity. They couldn't curse in my house. All that stuff they did in the streets. Hi, Miss Lukes. Very nice. They didn't do it in my yard. You see, so it takes a little bit of love and also a little bit of openness. It doesn't have to be something so expensive. But once you get the attention, that's when you can start to have certain conversations with them. Hey, you do this. Are you you working this summer? Is this and that and the third? And start to that's how it happens organically. These, like you said, with these centers, it's just a bunch of BS politics half the time. And they trying to just do numbers. And it's not necessarily always helping the community. That's why, once again, I urge the smaller organizations to get involved. Offer some real services that your community needs.
I see a comment right here. We only had Rush and the Youth Center. This is from Duquan talking about.
Yeah, we only had the Rush and the Youth Center, and that's in Roosevelt. We had the Roosevelt Youth Center. I think Freeport had Freeport Rec.
Freeport Rec.
I don't know what union they had, but I know that also too. You had the Police Athletic League, Police Boys Clubs, PAL, things of that nature. And see, that's another thing. We have to be, like I said, become proactive when it comes to our children, because you're a resource. So that means that if you're a resource, reach out to you to get these resources. Utilize the resources. People sometimes sit back on their hands and they say the woe is me situation, when you have an individual or individuals that are accessible and you do not do anything about it. That's the problem that I have when it comes down to our community. There are resources that are there. There's programs that are there. You're just not going out and utilizing. And the sad thing about it is, the individuals who actually runs the programs or are part of the resource program. Unless it gets to the point where tragedy hits your front door, that's when you want to say, I need this, that, and the third.
Or sometimes even when that happens, they still don't change. And that's even more, you know, a little more
frustrating
hurtful.
to me.
And I'm like, wow. But you know what happened? And our office is located in Hempstead. And
Right.
we offer services here in Hempstead, but let me tell you, it's like force feeding them to listen. And it happens not just in Hempstead, everywhere. I mean, last summer, I spoke at an event. They're asking me to come back and speak. It's called Yo Africa, and it's a big street festival they have over there. And they were just dancing and happy and just going on. But when you look at them, you see the poverty. You see they might be eating now, but their belly gonna be hungry tomorrow. You see all this thing, and they just want to party, party, party. Show up to the party, right? And I have to actually say, like, listen, I don't know what y'all are dancing for to really get their attention. And then it's like force feeding. Then when you get them, they'll sign up for services. You'll call them. They don't really want to do it. So it always comes to a place of how much help do you want? Do you want to live or do you want to die? And it comes, and dying is not just in the physical form. It's in the spiritual and the mental form. You could be just dead walking around here. You can be walking around in the streets and still be incarcerated. And that's the problem that we're having, that people are not even realizing that I have a problem. They're not realizing that, you know what, this is not right. So that's where we are with things. But once again, I'm going to urge those that know, those who have knowledge of self, those who have an understanding of what's going on. It's our responsibility. I always tell people, like, we got to be the Justice League, okay? The whole Superman, the Batman concept came from that. Think about what that was about. They went, and I love the comics, so I'm telling y'all a secret. I love the comics, but what I love about superheroes is because the police always had to come to them. If you realize that when it was a crisis, they put up the bat sign, and he had to come out for the dark and save the city. The police could never do it. It was made, because remember that Gotham City is New York City. And that's kind of what it is. We are all Batman. We are all responsible. You understand? He didn't say, I'm doing this for the hype. We never knew who he was, right? We didn't know he was Bruce Wayne. He just went out there and did what he had to do and then came back to his regular life. That's the mentality that we almost have to have. Don't do this for the hype, because so many people do it for the hype too, and they're not really doing it in real time. But do it from the right place, from love, from understanding, and people will gravitate towards it. It's not one place that I go and I speak to people where they don't have an understanding of what I'm saying or want to get involved or need services. You know, I had like a young man coming in today and was like, no one ever said these things to me. He's a 24-year-old man. I said, listen, this is what you got to do. You're not going to have a choice. And I just laid it down, and guess what? He understood. He didn't try to fight me. He didn't want to shoot me. He said, thank you. He said, I will give you a hug, but I didn't know I can't touch you. But it just took that little, he could have been my son. So now he texts me back, Miss Lukes, thank you. I'm going to fix my resume. He didn't know how to do any of these things. So if we don't take responsibility to help them, who's going to do it? They don't know where really to go. Then guess what? You a number. When you go to certain centers, you got to go through fill out 50 forms, give this, give that. You can't go there with no ID, or you got to just to get help. You can't make it difficult for them either.
That's the biggest problem, is being in your own way.
Yep. Absolutely.
Being in your own way. When you look at certain situations like what you have with this young man, he had enough initiative to get out his own way.
And be vulnerable.
I don't know what you need. I don't know what you need. I don't know what you need if you don't open your mouth.
But can I say something? It's once again learned behavior.
That's right. It's a learned behavior.
When people want to be so strong, and we're taught, oh, you can't look like what you're going through. And it's the vulnerability that has to come into saying, these men are sitting there and they are saying, listen, this is my problem, or this is what's going on with me, or I can't read, okay? Or I don't understand what I'm reading. You're dealing with, let me tell you something, you're dealing with a lot of different things.
Yeah. That I know when it comes down to the incarcerated.
Let me tell you something. For a 40-year-old man to come and say, you know what, I can't read, that takes a big step for him to say that. Okay, so it's about making that platform where they are comfortable to say, hey, I need help. You understand what I'm saying? I'm in this situation. This is what's going on. And they feel comfortable enough to do that. And that's what we have to do too. While we can win and all of us, because before I had my nonprofit, I did activist work straight. I had to do a nonprofit because I had to sit at certain tables. But if I could have remained an activist, I didn't need that title. I got a nonprofit. But if you can sit down with people and get them to understand, and you know, in a group home too, once you get in here, and in here, you can help them. You can tame the average beast, I say. But it's tamed by love, also listening to them, understanding that, listen, some of these young boys too have been sexually abused. Okay? It's a lot of different dynamics. So you take a man who was sexually abused, and for him to tell me stuff like that, I just thank God that I'm blessed with the whatever God gave me, because I didn't go to school for this, for somebody to come and respect me and trust me enough to say that. So now, guess what? This is a reentry program, right? But guess now I'm getting him some counseling for his abuse.
You see, it's reason why I speak to it the way I speak to it is because I've worked in locked up facility. I work in a lockup facility, and on top of that, I'm formerly an incarcerated individual. Being the fact that I'm a former incarcerated individual, I had to understand that I needed an exit plan, because to go back into the community and do the same thing and having children and things of that nature, people depended on me. I needed to reevaluate myself before I even got here. Now, and that's thinking proactively.
But can I say something? Because I knew you from before. You had all your screws were kind of tightened up already, despite you might have made some bad decisions. So it's different things. Sometimes we make bad decisions, right?
Right. But
people didn't get the upbringing that your mama gave you. So even though we deviate a little bit, it's still in you. But we have some that came out the belly of the beast, and they don't have that.
But see, that's the thing. Like you were saying, that the peer pull-up situation, we have to be able to say, like you said, everything was still tight, but I needed to pull up a peer. Just because, I'm in a good situation, or I'm a good situation, my man is not in a good situation. You understand what I'm saying? So being the fact that I know that I needed an exit plan, I used to sit there and shoot that to my man, like, you need an exit plan. You know what I'm saying?
But once again, because it's your character. But you got to understand, a lot of people, let me tell you something. When you grow up as a kid, let me give you a scenario. Your mother's on drugs, okay? Your father beat you. You don't have food every night. You went to school with holes in your sneakers. The kids are teasing you. The first day of school, you don't have your hair cut. And this happens. That's something else. That's we're dealing with trauma. We're dealing with trauma. We're dealing with PTSD. We got to pull back layers to see, but you might not have had that. You might, like I said, you might have just made some poor decision. Maybe you wanted to be down, or maybe whatever happened. But when you're dealing with that
wasn't the situation. I come from a domestic violence household.
No, that I'm saying, but you got a lot of kids who were little boys who were sexually abused, who were beat. These are the type of people that's come. Let me tell you something. We can see, because, like I said, I came from a situation of seeing domestic violence in my home. Okay, but for somebody to turn around and beat on me, that to physically be touching me, that would be something totally different. Right. And even though the only population I don't work with, but this is my choice, is like pedophiles and sex offenders. Me myself don't work with them. No. That's my choice. But even with them, trust me, if you do your backstory, it's gonna be some abuse.
Of course.
Somewhere in there that still has to be cured. You understand? So when we talk about these different things, whether I'm talking about the gun violence, because it take another person's life that really didn't do nothing to you, okay? That's a certain mentality and mindset to do that, okay? and feel like you could walk around comfortable doing that. You have with the reentry experience, those who coming home and don't know what to do. These are all crossroads situations. That's something different. So that's what I'm teaching. Make better choices. Think. Use your mind. Be a thinker. Be proactive in your thinking. Let's play chess, not checkers in life. Okay? We're going to think 3 steps ahead. You understand? But to teach someone that when they're grown where they can understand, that's what this is all about. My goal eventually is to get a center. So I'm working on some stuff now. Right now, I am teaching in the NYCHA housing system, which I'm super excited about, which is a big thing. My first class actually is next week, next Wednesday. So I gotta let you guys know how that goes. But what I love about it is because I'm working with individuals who are living in the housing projects, right? And I'm teaching them financial literacy and life plans, which the life plan comes with a bunch of different classes and workshops and that. I'm honored that they're actually going to have me to come in there, that they believe in me. But I just talk from my heart, and this is just what I do. And believe it or not, and that's why I tell people, follow your dreams and follow your passions. If it's in your heart to give, doors will open up for you. And that's one of my main messages, because there's 2 people I'm talking to. I'm even talking to people who get it or people who don't. But those who get it, be responsible and be accountable, not just for yourself, but for those who are around you. Sometimes we cannot, and I will say this, we can't save everyone, but one person that I could save and impact that one person's life, they're attached. They might have children, they got brothers and sisters and cousins. And if I can help one person, that one person's connected to 100 people.
That's right.
That's my proof of concept when that person changes their life. So I come to a place where, guess what? I can't save the whole project. It's 14 buildings, 14 floors, 10 apartments on each floor. But if I could even get one family on board per floor, you understand? That's generations down the line can change from that one action. And that's what it's all about.
Indeed. Now, Lala, give us your address in Hempstead where individuals can meet with you.
Well, they have to come in. They can't just come into my office.
Yeah. So they have to make an appointment.
Yes, make an appointment because I'm not always there.
And we know this with the construction and everything else. Matter of fact, speak to some of that and talk about the brown bag lady, because we only got short like a little bit of minutes. You got this thing with the brown bag ladies, and you're doing the movie Bag Lady, yes, Bag Lady, and speak to that, because I want individuals to know that you're multifaceted, and it's not just certain things that you do. Because we got like 2-3 minutes left, but I want them to know that you have this going on, and you're working with these ladies, and you're doing great things with these ladies.
Thank you. So everyone knows me from my project called Bag Lady, the photo experience. I show how everyday women transition out of different states of abuse through photos. We do art exhibits. I do art installations. This is a creative. I show how they transition through photos. This is for women of all nationality, all races I have involved in this. My next exhibit is coming up in October. We're dropping the location actually in 2 weeks. And we're doing it bigger and better. We're going to be on Wall Street with the installation. I've been published nationally and domestically as well for the project. But all that is good. But it's all the women that I help. All the women I deal with low self-esteem. I work with women that's HIV positive. I deal with mental health, single parenting, all the traumas that we women carry in our bags when we don't look like. I help them confront those traumas so they can travel light in life. One other thing I want to say, July 21st, I'll be in Amarachi in Brooklyn. That's on Bridge Street, underneath the bridge. And I'm having an event called Sip and Chat. It's a platform for mature adults to come together, and we have empowering conversations over food and wine. So this is going to be an event series. The proceeds, the tickets are only $10. I'm not killing nobody. The proceeds go back to Bag Lady to help these women with different things. I do help them with different resources as well. It'll have spoken word. I'm doing giveaways. It's gonna be that click your finger poetry type night, and it's definitely for the grown and sexy. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna talk about some topics. We deal with sexuality to mental health, and we get together with a bunch of strangers that you don't know, and we talk about different things. People from different backgrounds will be there, so it'll be really interesting and entertaining.
Now, also too, you have a Stop the Violence event coming up in August, and you have them in 2 different locations. You have them in Medina, which is Brooklyn, and then you have them in Long Island.
Well, no, I'm gonna be in St. Nick Houses.
Oh, you're gonna be in Harlem.
August 20th. I'm gonna be in Harlem, St. Nick Houses. That's always my go-to. Remember, I grew up in Harlem. That's always my go-to. I was speaking to someone yesterday after the gun violence event I had there, saying, "Bring my resources to Brooklyn. Call me up. I'll come to your hood. I'm there, okay?" And I'm having something in Roosevelt, Freeport, EOC. So I'm excited about that, to be in my own area, my own hometown, and that's August Saturday the 27th. That's a week after we're in Harlem. So we're moving around. We're doing it. If you want to get involved, I need volunteers. If you want to volunteer, please call me. We need volunteers. We need bodies. It doesn't matter what state you're in, because we can all get connected and work together.
That's it. That's it. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the phenomenal, the multifaceted Miss LaShawn Lukes, you know, and also too, she has her own products that she sells as well. She has glasses, purses, and
I like fashion. Everybody knows that. It's always got to be a ladies. I tell ladies, when we out there taking over the world, we can still be feminine, we can still be sexy and smart, okay?
And she has all these different things going on. So when you see her, just ask her, do she get any rest? Do she get any sleep? Because she has like 18
But
things
one thing I
on.
will say really quick, I do sell hemp products as well. If you're interested in getting and educated about hemp, I do classes and resources. I do put hemp oil under my eyes while you don't see no bags, okay? I do use my own products, and I have a hemp-based non-THC seasoning as well. So buy the season and it tastes good.
That's it. That's it. Make sure that you tap in with her, because we're tapped in with her. So basically, as long as we're tapped in, you should be tapped into, because we don't bring individuals on that we don't believe in. So
and guess what? I want to just say this before I go really quick. If I can do it, you can do it too. Follow your dreams. Get up, wake up, and live in purpose.
And trust and know she'll be back. Okay? She will be back, because we don't never have enough time to get all the things out. But ladies and gentlemen, from Real to Real 360, we want to salute you, Miss LaShawn Lukes. You know the love is real when it comes from us to you.
Yes, I love you guys. Thank you for doing what y'all doing. Don't stop.
You know what I'm saying? Definitely, you know what I'm saying? But at this moment in time, Kate, you know it's that time.
Absolutely, absolutely. Once again, everybody, we'd like to thank you all for tuning in, and our callers for calling in, and all the comments that have been given was well fed and reserved and taken into heart. Thank our special guest, Ms. LaShawn Lukes, again for giving us that great advice and wisdom of what to do. If you have any questions that you want to try to get in contact with her, I've been running the information all like underneath the link. You see it going on there. Make sure you contact at 516-499-2800. All right. Contact and tell her you heard it right here from the Real to Real 360, and she'll be like, all right, I got you. And on that note, ladies and gentlemen, thank you again. Once again, peace to all the laws, 5% nation of gods and earth, to all the human families of the planet Earth. We are Real to Real 360, and we are out. Tune in next time. You don't want to miss another exciting show on the Real to Real 360.
Yes. Peace.
Peace.
Yo, ladies and gentlemen, we're starting to come to the end of the show. Right now, I want to take the time out and thank our guests for coming on. Also, too, I want to make sure that y'all listening and subscribing, and tell a friend and keep sharing, because we're going to keep bringing y'all the real content. You know what I mean? So, DJ KY, this is my brother. Take us up out of here, son. Hey.
I want to give a big shout out to the nation of God, to all the human families on the planet Earth. I say peace. But you are subscribing, those who continue to watch and listen to the show each and every time we come on. I give a big shout out to love, peace, and happiness. to be the man, woman, and child of the you and I verse. It's time for us to disperse. We bring the best, not the worst. We thank you once again for tuning in to the real 360. Bring a friend to hit that like and subscribe so we continue to grow to bring more knowledge and wisdom to you upon our show. You make it possible for us to do what